Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Yes, sir, Bob. Here we are, my friends, back at it. El Rushmo and the Excellence in Broadcasting Network. Happy to be with you. As always, hope everybody had a great weekend. And now we're back, and we're locked and loaded, and we are ready for battle. Because that's what this seems to be. Each and every day. And the left is intensifying. The latest meme, the latest narrative, Donald Trump is mentally unstable. Donald Trump is insane. Donald Trump is unhinged. Donald Trump is mentally unsuited. That's been on HBO with Bill Maher. It's been it's in the Senate with Al Franken on Bill Maher. It's Chuck U. Schumer is echoing, well, he's not echoing those sentiments per se, but he's weighing in afterward to make it appear as though that is the case. The effort to undermine the Trump White House is in full force. And one of the ways that they're doing it, I want you to be prepared for this. The drive-bys consider Trump to have an insatiable ego. They believe that above all else, Donald Trump is ruled by his ego, meaning he wants to be loved and everybody to love him, and he wants everybody to think he's a winner and that he's the best. But most importantly, that Donald Trump is obsessed with people believing that he is in charge. Now, he's just the president of the United States. I don't know why that would be such a big sell. But their intent on telling people that that's what Trump cares about. He doesn't care about any of this other stuff. So one of the ways they're trying to undermine Trump, you've seen these covers, Time Magazine and other stories, saying Steve Bannon is actually the president. That Steve Bannon is actually the guy who is the power behind the throne. That is a psychological operation. That is designed to tick Trump off and fire Bannon. That's why they want Trump sitting in the White House seeing this stuff. Oh, yeah? They think Bannon's running the show? Well, I'll show them. And he calls Bannon in and says, look, I got to fire you. Everybody thinks you're the president, and you haven't done anything to disabuse them of that, so you're gone. And then they go to work on Stephen Miller next. They already are. He showed up on all the Sunday shows yesterday. The guy's good. So they're going to go after him. They already are. Details of that coming up. And they're going to go after everybody and anybody who they think they could sell as the brain behind Donald Trump. The reason Donald Trump is president, the things Donald Trump says, the policies Donald Trump comes up with are not his. They are all the result of AIDS. And they want Trump to end up firing everybody. They want him to end up firing his cabinet. So you could, folks, don't laugh. I mean, it is kind of comical, but this is one of the ways that they're going to go about this. Did anybody watch the Grammys last night? I have just one little observation about it. This is it's something that you're not going to see reported in a lot of places, but let's weigh some things. Every day, multiple times a day, all day long, all you are seeing is stories on the opposition to Trump in the form of rioters and protesters, you name it. People upset with Trump's immigration, his executive order, all of that. It's just nothing but opposition. And as I've said, the objective is to make you, Trump supporters, believe that Trump's losing it, that the country hates Trump, that the election was a mistake, that even you Trump supporters are beginning to abandon Trump. And it's the old saw that you're supposed to get depressed and dispirited and think, yeah, they got us again, that this isn't real. The victory isn't really real. It was fake. It was the result of cheating or what have you. And, of course, there aren't any counter-protests. I mean, when the left shows up at Berkeley, when the left shows up, there aren't any counter-protests. Well, last night at the Grammys, there was a woman on the red carpet who showed up in a gown that said, "Make America Great Again." Her name was Joy Villa, and she obviously came off just a version, based on the pictures, it appeared she was a Trump supporter. Do you know what happened to her album sales. Her album sales have shot through the roof, up 18 million%. Her album sales are up 18 million% within a matter of hours of wearing the now famous Make America Great Again dress. Joy Via's album, Make the Static, has skyrocketed in the sales ranking on Amazon. Previously, the album was ranked number 543,202. I didn't know that you could rank so low. I thought a bunch of liberal books were down in that 200,000 range, but I didn't know that they ranked things that low. She, just after being seen on TV wearing a Make America Great gown, her album went from number 543,000 to number 3. The top 3 albums under the movers and shakers categories all belong to her, Joy Via. Her album, Make the Static, is currently a better seller than both Lady Gaga and Beyonce. Now, I mention this because this is no question, it is a reaction. These are Trump supporters and the American people with an opportunity to push back and to demonstrate that they're out there and that they haven't lost anything and that they're not smaller in number. They haven't lost any passion. That's exactly what this is. And that's how it should be seen. This is an excellent example of pushback. This is an excellent example of how such a one-sided story can be countered with the truth. And the truth is that the Democrat Party lost. They haven't done anything to change why they lost. They're going even further left to the point now that ranking Democrat, one Democrat running for chairman of DNC is out saying this party's off the rails and it's all upset about things that don't matter. We got to get back. Jim Webb, who ran for the Democrat Party nomination, presidential nomination, is also out saying much the same thing. So while the left is losing, and while they are imploding, and while they can't win elections, the news media is filled with stories designed to make you think that everybody who voted for Trump regrets it. And if they had to do it over again, they would have voted for Hillary. That's essentially the news. You know, I ask myself a question as I watch all of this stuff. I asked me, did Trump win the election? Yeah. Well, what's changed? I mean, the reporting that we're getting on the resistance and the opposition to Trump is in no way in perspective. Nor is it in proportion. I mean, it's obviously fake in its own ways, and it's amplified beyond its actual reality and so forth. But what are the odds here that everybody that voted for Trump is mad at him now? What are the odds that everybody who voted for Trump thought, the heck with it, I didn't want any of this. This is not what I voted for. This is not what I thought I was going to get. I don't like the guy anymore. What? That hasn't happened. That has not happened. And by the way, there's nobody out there with an actual story saying that's happened. That's all part of the psyops, trying to make you think it's happened. Let's go to the audio sound bites, a little bit of a demonstration of this. NPR, Thursday, the Leonard Lopate show. He spoke with a senior editor from The Atlantic, somebody named Derek Thompson, who has a book called Hitmakers, The Science of Popularity in the Age of Distraction. And Leonard Lopate, the host here at NPR, says, are political campaigns now just another form of entertainment? Kind of like hit production? Are political campaigns basically forms of media companies now?
You can think of the White House as a movie studio, with the president as its star and these PR people as the means of distributing the president's message. Politics is entertainment.
If we were following the logic of your argument, cable and the internet would have diminished the power of political commentators, but Rush Limbaugh, still very influential.
Incredibly influential. And you've seen the power shift over time from broadcast networks to cable networks and then to talk radio. Right now, I think we are truly seeing not only a president who sees himself as essentially a media company, but now a news ecosystem that sees itself as having to broadcast challenging messages against the White House. So, I mean, right now, I think that the theme of politics is entertainment has never been more true.
So, you see, ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump and his election and his campaign had nothing to do with issues. Donald Trump, his presidency, his campaign, have nothing to do with ideas and substance and things having gone wrong in the country that people want fixed. No. It's all just PR now. It's all just a media show. And Trump is a fantastic entertainer. Where have I heard that analogy before? Oh, about me. I am alternately the leader of the Republican Party, and then I am nothing more than an entertainer, depending on the mindset of the left here. The idea that there is no substance to Trump, that there is nothing related to issues or policy. This is another example of how the left is trying to comfort itself and lie to itself by telling themselves that their ideas weren't rejected, they were just out-entertained. Trump he's a better entertainer than Hillary was, and it's a lament. This is so bad. This is what politics has become. This is so bad for America. It's just one giant entertainment show, and Trump's a better entertainer, and Limbaugh has more influence than we thought he would ever have. Limbaugh was supposed to have faded away by now, but instead, Limbaugh's more powerful than ever. This is not fair, and it's not right. That's the sum total of this soundbite. Because the NPR guy, you hear what he said? He said, well, if we were following the logic of your argument, cable and the Internet would have diminished the power of political commentators. But Rush Limbaugh is still very influential. Incredibly influential, says the guest. And you've seen the power shift over time from the broad. I actually think these guys are a couple years behind what is going on and what has gone on. But I really do. I think both these guys have missed what's happening here by 2 years. But if I go over here, let me explain that later, because there's a transition I want to make here. Because there is a Forbes story featuring noted presidential historian Douglas Brinkley. And Brinkley's story is essentially how Trump is basically non-substantive, is off his rocker. Let me get the headline of this thing real quickly if I can, just because I only printed the last page because it's all it's got on it, but now I realize I can't find it. Here we go. This is it. Nope. Is this right? Trump reviews top finance. It's a story. It's not about Brinkley. He's quoted. It's a political story about how Trump's White House is imploding, and it's based about Michael Flynn on his way out, to be followed by Bannon. Reince Priebus he's on the way out today. Reince Priebus is done. Bannon is going to be done because Trump's going to fire him because the media thinks Bannon's president, and Trump is just a placeholder. This is the way they're working it. In this story that's on the Politico, there's a quote from Douglas Brinkley. Presidential historian recently met with Trump, said the presidency had been off to the rockiest start I can remember, quote unquote. The Trump presidency, Douglas Brinkley, is off to the rockiest start I can remember. And then he said this: everything Trump rolls out is done so badly. It reeks of being short-staffed and not having a true pecking order of production from the White House. They're just releasing comments, they're just releasing tweets, and they're just releasing policies willy-nilly. It's been a very convulsive and confusing first 2 weeks. But, nevertheless, it's been salad days if you care about Republican policies. Well, bingo, there it is. So here we have over at NPR, Leonard Lopate and an author of books saying, there's no substance to Trump. Oh, no, it's purely entertainment now. Politics is the entertainment, and Trump's a better entertainer than Hillary. Trump's a better entertainer than Democrats have. And now when he's got Limbaugh on his side, they're doubling down on us, and we have no prayer. But then you come over here to Douglas Brinkley, and he says, if you care about Republican policies, the Trump administration has been salad days. Exactly. Because it's filled with substance. There are issues and ideas. Donald Trump has rolled out more substance, or tried to, in the first 3 weeks of his presidency than you normally get in the first 6 months to 9 months of your average presidency. In fact, some people are saying, slow down. You're going too fast. You're trying to do too much. But over at NPR, that's just entertainment now. It's not even really substance and issues. So the left can't even come together on how it is they want to oppose Trump, other than to say he's mentally unstable. And how did that work out for him? And that was Hillary's number one campaign platform plank. Trump's unsuitable. Trump's not prepared. Trump's insane. Trump's mentally maladjusted. Trump is a lunatic. Trump is dangerously unhinged. We don't want him or his finger anywhere near the nuclear codes. They just keep recycling this stuff. And they don't realize that it is they who are devoid issues. It is they who are imploding. It is they who seem to have no cohesive unity. And it is them that no matter what they do, they can't stop Trump. Now, the Trump administration threw a new guy out there yesterday, Stephen Miller, who's long been part of the campaign. He was the warm-up act for Trump at his rallies, and he's been a senior strategist all along in there. And it isn't going to be long before Trump's going to have to fire him, because he's obviously smarter than Trump and is telling Trump what to think and what to say, just like Bannon and just like Priebus and just like Flynn. There are 4 people Trump's going to have to fire now, or that are already in trouble. Stephen Miller was on the 4 network programs yesterday, the Sunday shows, and kicked it. And the left today and the media is doing their best to destroy him. I have the sound bites of that coming up. All kinds of the ICE raids, the immigration raids. Here's Trump's executive order, which has been shut down, and yet ICE is showing up all over illegal immigrant America and deporting them. USA Today actually has a story, what to do if ICE knocks on your door and you're illegal. Don't answer it. Don't answer it and call an immigration lawyer. We'll be back here, folks. Yeah, you have to remember, folks, about the media. Most of them never got anywhere near a Trump rally. Most of them never watched one on TV or actually listened to one. So you who voted for Trump, who did hear everything he said, those of you who attended his rallies, you know what his issue-oriented agenda is, and you know that since even before he was inaugurated, he has begun to implement much of that agenda. So you're happy, as Brinkley said, salad days, if you like Republican policies. But the media, they didn't go. Those who were there didn't really pay any attention to it because they thought Trump never had a chance. This was just Looney Tunes. They went out there because they were obligated to, but they paid no attention to it. So everything Trump is doing, I'm not exaggerating. The Trump agenda is a shock to them. They didn't pay any attention to it. We know this. They gave the Trump campaign no serious chance whatsoever. They lied to themselves. They lied to Hillary. They lied via their polls. The media is as much as anybody responsible for the Democrat loss by creating this inevitability of a Hillary win in everybody's mind, and they didn't take Trump seriously. Here comes Trump. He gets elected. He starts implementing the agenda, and they're outraged. But yet anybody that paid any attention knew exactly what was coming, and it's come. It's on schedule. Some things are lagging, but I mean the implementation of the agenda is well underway, and the drive-bys are beside themselves. Don't know what to do, how to react to it. Welcome back. El Rush Bowl meeting and surpassing all audience expectations. Every day, some of the other headlines, things I hope to be able to get to later today. And I think I saw that Trump has a press conference today at 2 o'clock. Half the time, I don't know if what I see on cable news, he does. Yeah, it's up there again. So 2 o'clock, which means, I mean, we're going to be jipping it. There's no ifs, ands, or uts about that. Now, I don't know how long we're going to stay with it. That, of course, is totally up to me and my highly refined and expertise in judgmental matters on the quality of programming. So if I sense that it's ho-hum, boring, whatever, out we will be. But we will join it, we'll jip it. These things never start on time, so my guess is it'll start sometime in the monologue segment of the 2 p.m. hour, which means that I'm going to have to hustle to get to some things here that I would normally say for the third hour. Now, this is a story from the publication Slate.com. And here's the headline. We used terrible science to justify smoking bans. Second-hand smoke isn't as bad as we thought. And this is a bunch of leftist health Nazi types. These are the environmentalist wackos and health freaks that basically think human existence is destroying the planet. These are people that really think the surest way to save the planet is for there to be many, many, many fewer humans, only a select few elite smart ones. And other than that, get rid of everybody because they do nothing but take and destroy and plunder and pollute. And I'm not making it up. Many on the left think that, and it's particularly in the environmentalist wacko movement, which we have been chronicling here for 3 decades. And folks, this secondhand smoke ban, or this secondhand smoke theory, we found, this goes way back in the 1990s, the United Nations / World Health Organization did a multi-year study with many, many thousands of people. And they found that there was no relation, I mean absolutely no relationship between secondhand smoke and cancer. Zero, zilch, nada. They suppressed that report. The World Health Organization did not release it. We had access to it because we had developed fans, followers, back then who were very much interested in this. They had access to it, and they showed it to us. And it was all prepared for release. And at the last minute, the United Nations, for obvious reasons, decided to shelve it because it didn't fit with the current anti-tobacco company narrative at the time. And it didn't fit with all the environmental wacko stuff at the time. And it didn't fit with the anti-capitalist meme of the time. But you don't even need to study common sense. Common sense would not, this is not to say secondhand smoke is not uncomfortable, and it's not to say that it stinks, doesn't stink. It's not to say that there's anything beautiful about it, but it's not deadly. It never was dead. In fact, it doesn't even make people sick. There was no documentation that people were actually made sick by it. But it was because of the secondhand smoke bogus studies that these draconian smoking bans were put into place. Now, I know nobody cares about it now. I mean, the smoking bans, you can't smoke anywhere, is accepted, and nobody has a problem with it. It's one of those little bastions of freedom that we willingly said goodbye to. You want to hear something interesting? I told you I went to an annual cigar dinner down here last week. It was at the Old Palm Golf Club. Marvin Shankin, Cigar Aficionado magazine, sponsored it. And I love going to these things. I love meeting the cigar guys, cigar manufacturers. Do you know the cigar fad took place in the early 90s when Cigar Aficionado was born, and I, of course, began touting them on the air. Those two things led to a massive fad, as it were, a 4 or 5 year period where everybody was smoking cigars, and you could smoke them publicly in bars and restaurants. I remember going to dinner at 21 in New York, and after dinner lighting up a cigar. And only one time, you want to hear it, only one time did a patron sitting close by complain. You know what they did? They moved him. They didn't move me, and they didn't ask me to put out the cigar. They moved that guy. There was only one complaint. He's like, I can't eat. This stinks. It's smoking. Fine, sir, we'll move you over here. And they moved him to a different part of the restaurant. Now, of course, no such thing would happen. Here's the thing. Cigar guys are having record sales. there are more manufacturers. The big manufacturers can't make enough product. The premium cigar, my question is, where are people smoking them? You can't smoke them anywhere. So when I asked the manufacturers, where can you smoke them? You can't smoke them inside anywhere. Well, there are a couple. I've mentioned a couple of golf clubs where you can smoke anywhere, and I love them. But the smoking bans are everywhere. Yet people are finding a way to smoke them. Is the point? But just so you know, secondhand smoke. We told you about this 20 years ago. That it was much ado about nothing. That you're not going to get cancer from secondhand smoke. It might make you uncomfortable. You might hate the smell, but it's not going to make you sick. And it still won't. Now, people were talking themselves into being sick. Now, here's another little headline. Black Lives Matter co-founder appears to label white people defects. Story from the Toronto Sun. A co-founder of Black Lives Matter Toronto argued that white people are recessive genetic defects and purportedly mused about how the white race could be wiped out, according to a post on what appears to be her Facebook page. Her name is Yusra Kogali. She has faced increased scrutiny over the past year after Black Lives Matter Toronto gained political influence following their disruption of the Toronto Pride Parade and confrontations with Ontario Premier Kathleen Wynne. On Friday, Toronto police announced they would not participate in this year's upcoming parade. It's been a long-standing demand of Black Lives Matter Toronto, and one that the Board of Pride Toronto recently backed in a controversial vote. Anyway, this babe has a track record of inflammatory, divisive. Why is that not racist to say? Why is there a serious news story about the intellect and the life and the policy positions of this nutcase? Black Lives Matter co-founder appears to label white people defects, recessive genetic defect. Why is that okay? And why, if somebody came along who was not part of Black Lives Matter or not a racial minority and began to poke fun at this woman, you know what they would be in for. Why is she allowed, and why is any racial minority allowed to get away with this kind of thing? And then why is it that when certain white people react to it and fight back, they are condemned? And is there no end to this? Did Canada have slavery? Does Canada have the original sin of slavery, which permits a Black Lives Matter operative there to call white people recessive genetic defects? Yeah, you see, we're just supposed to take it, accept it, smile, and move on. Nothing to see here, because we're supposed to be understanding. And we're supposed to be bigger. But when does this stuff end? And this is a serious story. It's like an analysis of this woman and her political life and her influence and her education and why she believes this, and an effort to actually support the claim that she makes from her perspective, of course. And yet, if the opposite were stated by anybody, you don't even want to think about what would happen. And I submit to you, it's little things like this that add up and add up, have a cumulative effect, boiling over, and nobody ever really knows why, except the people, the objects of this derision. They hear it, they see it for years and years and years, and they see the imbalance in terms of coverage and treatment. It's like, in a way, and we're going to get to this, we get to the Steve Miller soundbites, but look at what the left wants to do to Kellyanne Conway, and I guess even some Republicans, over her supposed endorsement of Ivanka Trump products vis-a-vis Nordstrom. I have a few more things I want to add to that, but we're going to take a break and come back and play some bites of Stephen Miller, Trump supporter and policy advisor, who was on all the Sunday shows yesterday. See what you think. Okay, so the Trump White House trotted out not a spokesman, but one of their inside policy advisors to appear on the Sunday show, Stephen Miller, who is in his 30s. He's a wonderkind of sorts. He went to Duke. He's from Santa Monica, Santa Cruz. He's from a very leftist part of California, but is a rock-ribbed conservative. Trump found him working for Jeff Sessions. And he is a very articulate spokesman and unruffable. He's unruffable. He's extremely solid. In fact, I looked at some of the comments on the ABC website after he appeared with Stephanopoulos. And Stephanopoulos, it was so classic yesterday, being disrespectful, subtly so, with pointed editorial comments about Miller. Well, you've provided no evidence, and you still, for the record, you have not provided any evidence to one of the claims that you can make it. You know, meanwhile, Susan Rice shows up to lie to Stephanopoulos and everybody about Benghazi on 5 shows, and they all lap it up like addicts. Not once did well, you haven't provided any evidence that the video actually was the reason for the killings in Benghazi. Not a single time. Our sound bites come from this week, but he showed up on all the programs. Let's get started here. First question that we have, do you think everyone being removed right now, meaning illegal immigrants, because these ICE raids, by the way, about these ICE raids, something you need to know. Drive-bys are obsessed today with what's being reported as Trump's huge immigration roundup. Never mind, these raids being executed were planned months ago under the Obama regime, folks. I'm not making it up. I never make it up. This is what's happening. Never mind that Obama himself ordered numerous raids. It didn't just net a couple hundred illegal aliens. Obama had raids that netted 7,500 illegals and deported them. But that was never, it was reported, but nobody ever had a problem with it when Obama did it. Nobody, the media, nobody thought it was inhumane. Nobody thought it was untoward. Nobody thought it was terrible. They barely even mentioned it. Now, Obama-era raids, just like that military operation in Yemen, that was planned during the Obama administration. So are these raids that you're reading about. So Stephanopoulos is asking Miller, do you think everyone being removed right now is a threat to national security?
I think, first of all, that it would be improper, unethical, and wrong for me in the White House to pick up the phone and call an ICE officer and say, well, we know you encounter someone who's here illegally, and we know they have a final order of removal, and we also know that they're a convicted felon, but we would like you to ignore all of those laws. What would you say, George, if I picked up the phone and called an FBI agent and said, I know you're investigating a tax evasion case, and I know the person you're investigating is a convicted felon, and I know they've absconded from justice, but I want you to pretend none of that happened, burn the file, go back to your desk, don't do anything. Would you think that would be an ethical and appropriate action for me to take?
Now, I love this. And by the way, Trump tweeted this morning his thanks to his own aide for defending him so well. I mean, you never see a president do that. Did Obama tweet his support and appreciation for Susan Rice? No. Obama wanted you to think he had nothing to do with what she said. But Trump's out there tweeting, thanks to Stephen Miller defended me so well on lying fake news or whatever it was the tweet said. But here's Stephanopoulos. The point of Stephanopoulos' question is, okay, you guys are rounding up all these innocent, harmless illegals and you're just throwing them out of the country. You really think they're a threat to national security? And Miller answers it as a rule of law question. He says, well, first of all, it would be really improper, unethical, and wrong for the White House to pick up the phone and call an ICE officer and say, hey, if you find an illegal who violated the law, ignore it. We wouldn't do that. We're simply enforcing the law here, George. It might look strange to you because it hasn't been done in the last 8 years. But that's the point of Miller's bite here. We're just enforcing the law. He doesn't say these are Obama-era ordered raids, but they are. I'm not even sure Stephanopoulos knows that. And Miller tries to make the point. Look, George, if we know somebody's out there, like if you know a friend of yours is evading taxes and we've got all the evidence, do you think we should pick up the phone and call the IRS and tell them to forget it? And his point is, why should we forget and ignore people breaking the law, George? all we're doing, Trump said from the get-go, American laws are going to be enforced. He was a big law and order guy during the campaign, during his appearances and his rallies. And here's Stephanopoulos, one of the people that didn't listen, didn't pay any attention while Trump was campaigning. And now, because his sensibilities are offended, because these are minorities, these are people of color, and they're poor people, and they're illegal, and you're kicking them out. Yeah, threats to national security. No, it's not national security, George. We're enforcing the law. And of course, Stephanopoulos had no answer for any of these retorts from Stephen Miller. He just, well, okay, well then, okay, well, okay, how about this? And then on to the next question. And as you will hear, Miller nukes the next question. Well, yeah, but I didn't hear for the record anything. You still didn't answer my question. Now, on to the next question. And it went on and on like that. And Miller, they didn't fluster him. And what they're really, really upset today is that Miller pointed out that there's voter fraud everywhere. And Stephanopoulos did what the drive-bys do. Give me the evidence. Give me the evidence. And Miller said, go to New Hampshire, George. I mean, everybody in New Hampshire in politics would say they bust people in here and there. And so now New Hampshire's up in arms and the drive-bys are up in arms at Trump once again lying about non-existent voter fraud. Anyway, I have to take a break here, but we have lots more, as you can tell, so don't go away, folks. I'll be right back. By the way, the story on Reince Priebus being on his way out comes from Chris Ruddy of Newsmax.com, who is a very, very close friend of the Trumpster. I think he was there with the Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and his wife. And he's telling CNN that Priebus not doing a good job. And people think, my gosh, would Ruddy be doing that without Trump's consent? So it's another one supposedly on the block. Hi, folks, and welcome back. Great to have you. Rush Limbaugh kicking off a brand new week of broadcast excellence here on the Excellence in Broadcasting Network, the most listened to radio talk show in the country. All right. My bad. I just found out that the Trump press conference is it that little prime minister from Canada, Justin Trudeau. So we're not going to jip that. I'm not going to jip that till I get to the questions. If it were just, a Trump standalone, we'd be there. But since it's a joint presser with Justin Trudeau, what did I say? Justin Trudeau? What did I say? Justin Leonard? It's Justin Trudeau. He's the son of Margaret Trudeau, who's just as crazy as he is. And his father, of course, makes three. But I didn't see that at first, so I'm just letting you know that we're going to jip it still, but when they get to the questions after the actual joint press statements and so forth from both Trudeau and Trump have finished. Now, I am being told that Chris Ruddy of Newsmax.com is slightly walking back his criticism of Reince Priebus. It seems to be a little bit of a backtrack. Ruddy posted yesterday on Twitter that Reince just briefed me on new White House plans. Impressive. CNN Today were my personal view. I told him I have open mind based on his results. So, whereas it initially looked like, look, Ruddy is a very, very close friend of the Trumpster. They're almost inseparable out there. So when Ruddy starts ragging on Reince Priebus, people start thinking that that's actually Trump. If Trump doesn't slap Ruddy down, and people think, man, Trump's getting ready to get rid of Priebus. So Ruddy walks it back a little bit and tells, no, it was just my own thoughts when I was on CNN. Reince has now shown me White House plans, and they look very good to me. So I guess Ruddy is going to tell Trump that Priebus's plans look good. Now, and that means that Priebus will be safe. Well, this is how the media reports this stuff. Because Trump, of course, he's not... I think they're getting ready to say that Trump is almost like Reagan. He's asleep half the time, taking naps, and all these other guys are running the show. And then they're going to report that, and Trump's going to get mad that everybody thinks he's not there, that all these other guys are running the show, and he'll fire all of them. I mean, that's the media. That's what they're trying to do with Bannon, putting Bannon on the cover of Time magazine as the de facto president. Clearly a psyops operation, trying to make it look like they think Trump's going to be sitting there wherever he reads Time. What? They think Bannon's president? Well, I'll show them, and he fires Bannon. Then the next thing he sees is that Reince Priebus, somebody thinks Reince Priebus is doing a bad job, but Trump doesn't know that. So they got to get rid of Reince. And this is how the media, they are playing it this way. It's laughable. They paid no attention, really didn't. They paid no attention to Trump during the campaign, and they paid no attention to Trump's statements and his agenda. And now that this stuff is starting to be implemented, they're aghast. Let me grab this call real quickly, because this is, I could make the point here without taking the call, but I don't want to take away from the caller. We have a guy from Quincy named Jeffrey. Jeffrey, hi. Welcome to the EIB network. What is your question, your point?
My quick question is, I just visited my brother out in California, and talking to a lot of liberal people about Trump, and they always bring it up, and they're so tortured by it. But they think if you could do a redo today and revote, they're convinced that Trump would lose resoundingly. And I can see how they would feel that based on what's going on in the press and so forth. But my question to you is, what do you think the people in Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and Ohio think? Because that's really what matters. Who cares what the liberals preach to themselves? And
I think that's bogus. I think if the election were held today, Trump would win. I don't think there's any question about it. This is exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about. You're talking to your buddies out in California, and they say, oh, man, and they're just watching the media, and they think the media is destroying Trump every day. They really think the media is destroying Trump, and that Trump's presidency is already over, and that people now know this. And the people who voted for Trump realize the mistake they made. The people who voted for Trump privately, probably very, very embarrassed. And if they had a do-over, if they had a chance to do it again, they'd do the right thing this time, and they would vote for Hillary. That's what all of this coverage is that's what it's designed to affect. And I'm here to tell you that if the election were held today, Trump would win, and maybe by an even bigger number. Because the people that voted for Trump are getting exactly what he said. If anybody is in trouble here, and do not doubt me on this, Jeffrey, if anybody's in trouble, it's the Republicans in Congress, because the Democrats are already in trouble. The Democrats would continue to lose. If they held a special election today, the Democrats would lose more seats based on what they are doing, based on what their agents, these rioters, these protesters are doing. The Democrat Party is damaging itself in ways they can't even tell. But there are some people within the Democrat Party starting to see this. Jim Webb and one of the guys running for the chairmanship of the DNC. The people that are in real trouble right now are the Republicans on Capitol Hill, who do not appear energetic to help Trump implement his agenda. That's who might be in trouble if there were an election today, but not Trump. And you can take that to the bank. And you can call your buddies in California. In fact, I want you to. And I want you to tell them you called me. And I want you to tell them that I told you specifically to say from me that in their dreams, is this election, if it were held today, going to defeat Trump? Trump would win by an even bigger margin. I want you to tell them I said that. And then you can tell them that I know what's really going on with this secondhand smoke is not a problem anymore. They want marijuana legalized, and they want it smoked anywhere. And they want everybody to know that secondhand smoke, tobacco or marijuana, doesn't cause cancer as a means of spreading evil weed all over the place. You tell them I got it. You tell them I understand it. You tell them I know where they're coming from and where they're headed, and they're continuing to sink down the rat hole. You tell them I said that. Because I know they'll never call me here and give me the chance to say it to them. But, Jeffrey, do not let them talk you out of what you know. Do not let them tell you things that are not true. Do not. That's why I run the risk of having people say, Rush, get on to something else. You've said this over and over. But this is why. The media coverage here is designed to create the exact thought that you called to ask me about. that if the election were held today, Trump would lose because now people have realized the mistake they made. People realize what an idiot Trump is. People realize how dangerous Trump is. People realize that Trump hates people. People realize how incompetent and dangerous the cabinet is. That's the whole point of this coverage since before Trump was inaugurated, is to create stories like that. You tell these guys to stuff it. You tell them to put it where the sun don't shine. You tell them to grow up and join you in conservatism and try to become happy.
Best advice in the world, Rush. That's a Yahtzee.
Well, I appreciate that. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to help. I'm here to keep everybody properly focused and looking up. Because this is the one chance we've got in our lifetimes here, folks. You all know how the media operates. You all know. You therefore all know how to avoid being affected by it. You all know how to build up a wall or a boundary around yourself so that all of this nonsense just bounces off and doesn't even enter the serious part of your brain. Because it's all nothing but a fantasy on the part of the drive-bys. I appreciate the call. I appreciate the opportunity to answer it. Moving on back to Stephen Miller, ABC, George Stephanopoulos. Here was the next question. Mr. Miller, we've got this report at the Department of Homeland Security right now saying that the cost of the wall is likely to be above $20 billion. That's almost 3 times what the president said on the campaign trail. One, how much is the wall going to cost? The president says he's going to bring the cost down, and can you guarantee that Mexico will pay?
I'm so glad you brought this up. The media has done story after story after story about the cost of building a security wall on the southern border. I can't remember a time, George, and correct me if I'm wrong, that anyone in the media has ever done a story about the cost of amnesty, about the cost of not enforcing our laws, or the cost of illegal immigration. This is really quite remarkable. It's estimated that illegal immigration costs our country state, local, and federal benefits about $100 billion a year. Stopping new illegal immigration, preventing the effects that will have on our schools, on our hospitals, on our welfare system, on our wage earners, will save taxpayers hundreds of billions of dollars. This wall will pay for itself many, many, many times over.
I guarantee you that Stephanopoulos has not had anybody answer his question this way. Stephanopoulos asks this question thinking, even before he's asked it, that he's got Miller trapped. And you know why he thinks that? Because he thinks he's going to be exposing Trump as a liar about the cost of the wall and about Mexico paying for the wall. And in this, Stephanopoulos is demonstrating that he, like practically everybody else in the media, does not understand Trump and does not understand Trump supporters and does not understand why Trump supporters support Trump and the kind of latitude and leeway they give Trump. He hasn't the slightest idea. This is really such a narrowly focused, short-sighted mindset to believe that they can help destroy Trump in the minds of Trump's supporters by pointing out that this wall is going to cost 3 times what Trump said it was going to cost. What about the cost of the national debt that doubled under Barack Obama? George, are those things that you just don't even have register in your brain? You worried about the costs of the wall when you served a president who blew the lid off spending, who had a stimulus bill of nearly $1 trillion that went to unions and didn't rebuild a single road or bridge, much less school? And you sit here and you hope to badger some Trump guy about the cost of the wall being 3 times what Trump said it was going to be? Then the answer comes back, hey, George, have you ever done a story on the cost of amnesty? Hey, George, you in the media ever figure what's going to cost this country to grant amnesty to 11 or 15 million people? You ever done a story? And Stephanopoulos didn't address it, wasn't what he was expected, so he went on. Okay, this. President Trump, again this week, suggested in a meeting with senators that thousands of illegal voters were bused from Massachusetts to New Hampshire, and that's what caused his defeat in the state of New Hampshire, also the defeat of Senator Kelly Ayotte. Do you have evidence, Mr. Miller?
I've actually, having worked before on a campaign in New Hampshire, I can tell you that this issue of busing voters into New Hampshire is widely known by anyone who's worked in New Hampshire politics. It's very real. It's very serious. Voter fraud is a serious problem in this country. You have millions of people who are registered in 2 states, or who are dead, who are registered to vote, and you have 14% of non-citizens, according to academic research, at a minimum, are registered to vote, which is an astonishing statistic.
You can't hold on a second. You just claimed again that there was illegal voting in New Hampshire. Do you have any evidence to back that up?
George, go to New Hampshire, talk to anybody who's worked in politics there for a long time. Everybody's aware of the problem in New Hampshire.
Now, it's not just New Hampshire. We just had a case in Texas where an illegal alien woman was found guilty by a jury voting illegally, and she entrapped herself because she tried to register when she moved, and she admitted that she wasn't a citizen. She was caught. She was convicted, as much for lying as much for anything. There is voter fraud. We know that dead people in Chicago vote, and this is Miller's whole point. Of course there's voter fraud. But the news media thinks that this is something they can nail Trump with as a lying skunk, because they think every time they ask this question, if Trump can't produce the fact that 3 million illegal aliens voted, that means Trump is lying. And that means they can nail Trump. And what they're demonstrating again is that they haven't the slightest idea why Trump supporters support him and voted for him. This is a great example of what I have been attempting to show. The drive-bys are stuck in a mode of operation that's decades old in the establishment playbook about how to destroy Republicans. And they have not modernized it and updated it to deal with Trump. I don't think there is anybody in media who better understands Trump supporters, who they are, and why they support Trump than I am. I really don't. I don't think there's anybody out there in media that has a better understanding and a bigger hold on just who Trump supporters are, why they support him, and why the media cannot separate them from Trump. The media doesn't understand it. They think they can with questions to Stephen Miller like this. Because Stephanopoulos just goes, okay, well, let the record show you provided no evidence of voter fraud in New Hampshire. Let the record show that you cannot provide evidence for one faulty, fraudulent vote. Miller said, well, you talk to Chris Kobach, the Attorney General in Kansas. I mean, they've been doing some great work on voter fraud. So CNN dutifully went and got him on the air today, talk about voter fraud, talked about it in the state of Kansas and so forth. But see, here's the thing. They want to sit there and deny that there's any voter fraud. They don't understand that is the crazy position. They think Trump's crazy. They think, by extension, Miller's crazy. They think that they're exposing crazy, lying SOBs here when they kept saying, you can't provide any evidence. Let the record show you haven't provided any evidence of any fraudulent voting in New Hampshire. So Stephanopoulos thinks he wins the day. Stephanopoulos does not realize that practically every Trump supporter watching, if there are any, that's another thing. Trump supporters don't watch this drivel much anymore. But those who do, and those who are watching, know exactly what Miller's talking about, and they support and applaud him saying what he said. We know not only do they bus voters in New Hampshire, they bus voters in for the Hawkeye caucus. That's how Obama won the Iowa caucuses in 2000. They bust a bunch of people in there. Hillary tried to do the same thing this time around. We know the dead vote in Chicago. They laugh about it. They brag about it. We know multiple registration rolls. We know all kinds of things. We have a survey out today. 4 out of 5 Americans support voter ID. Why? Because they know there's vote fraud going on. And here's Stephanopoulos and ABC and the rest of the media trying to deny that there is any voter fraud because Trump and Miller don't produce actual evidence. And they think they're winning the day. They have no idea how they're appearing. They have no idea how all this just cements Trump's supporters even more firmly. Back to the phones, line 3, Central Florida. Al, great to have you with us, sir. What's happening? What's up?
Retired law enforcement dittos, Rush, listener since 94.
Thank you.
My point is simply this. Several years ago, Jan Brewer, Sheriff Joe, and the Arizona legislature were tired of the federal government not enforcing our border. They took action, passed laws, and started to do what they could to protect the citizens of Arizona. The Obama administration sued them, stating immigration was solely the responsibility of the federal government, and if I remember correctly, the courts agreed with them and struck down all the Arizona laws that were passed. Now we are several years later, they're arguing, the same people are arguing, it's not just simply the purview of the federal government, specifically the president. Rather, it's the people who live here, the people who live overseas, they all have a say in who gets to come into the country, and not the federal government, who is, by the Constitution, supposed to protect our borders and ensure our national security.
Okay, 2 points about it. A, you're right on the money in recounting the history of Arizona. They simply rewrote state immigration law to mirror federal immigration law because Obama was not enforcing it. Courts struck it down on the basis that states don't control immigration, the federal government does, meaning the executive and legislative branches. But that statute from 1952, which derived from a 1948 Supreme Court decision, granting total authority to the president to proclaim that anybody from anywhere cannot get into the country for whatever reasons for as long as he says so, is totally a power held by the president. Now, that executive order has been stayed. The thing that you need to remember about this is that the substance of the Trump executive order has not even had a hearing yet, folks. The judge in the state of Washington stayed the order because he didn't agree with the president, and that's not his role. The voter fraud survey is from last August. It's from Gallup. As partisan-fueled court battles over state voting laws are poised to shape the political landscape in 2016 and beyond, a new Gallup research shows that 4 out of 5 Americans support both early voting and voter ID laws. That's 80%. Now, despite this, despite the fact that 80% support voter ID laws, the media still hammers anybody who might suggest that there's fraud in voting. Like you just heard Stephanopoulos hammer Stephen Miller from the Trump administration. Well, for the record, you provided no evidence whatsoever. For the record, I didn't hear any evidence whatsoever, Mr. Miller, that you can say one faulty vote, one fraudulent vote. I didn't hear one bit of evidence. Come on, George. I mean, everybody knows. You go to New Hampshire, you go to there's voter fraud, and people bussing in. I didn't see any evidence. I don't see any evidence. You have, for the record, not provided one bit of evidence. You know, we hate you, Miller. We hate you. Don't you understand? We in the media, we hate you. We hate Trump. We hate Bannon. We hate you all. And we're going to get you. And that's what these Sunday shows are all about. One more. This is the last bite from Miller, but this guy, he did the rounds yesterday. He went over, talked to F. Chuck Todd at NBC. He was at Fox News with Chris Wallace. We just chose Stephanopoulos because, well, I don't know why we did, but we did. It just happened the way it came up with the rotation. Final bite. Stephanopoulos says, "I'm asking you, as the White House senior policy advisor, the president made a statement saying he was the victim of voter fraud. Do you have any evidence? Huh?
The White House has provided enormous evidence with respect to voter fraud, with respect to people being registered in more than one state, dead people voting, non-citizens being registered to vote. George, it is a fact, and you will not deny it, that there are massive numbers of non-citizens in this country who are registered to vote. That is a scandal. We should stop the presses, and as a country, we should be aghast about the fact that you have people who have no right to vote in this country, registered to vote, canceling out the franchise of lawful citizens of this country. That's the story we should be talking about, and I'm prepared to go on any show, anywhere, anytime, and repeat it and say the President of the United States is correct 100%.
Stephanopoulos ended the bite by saying, well, let the record show that Mr. Miller provided not one shred of evidence for voter fraud in the United States in the last election. And we'll be back with our next guest, who is going to slam Trump. I forgot who it is, but we'll be back with him right after these commercial announcements from ABC. And that's how the interview went. George, the real story is, and you won't deny it, and Stephanopoulos didn't deny it. The only rejoinder they've got is, you haven't provided any evidence. You haven't provided any evidence whatsoever. Wonder, it wouldn't take us long if I wanted to order a review of our audio soundbite archives to find all the evidence of Democrats accusing Republicans of engaging in voter fraud and claiming to have produced said evidence. But see here, there is none. Here we go back to the phones. I want to grab Steve in Oklahoma City because I happen to agree with him here. Hey, Steve, welcome to the Rush Limbaugh program. Great to have you here, sir. How are you?
My gosh, what an honor, what an honor. I've listened to you since day one, and I can't believe I'm finally talking to you. I'm 70 years old, and I used to smoke cigarettes for about 40 years and quit quite some time ago. And would you tell me why it's okay to smoke marijuana? That smoke doesn't bother you, but secondhand smoke is like the worst thing you can possibly do. And I have one other question to ask you.
Well, okay, don't lose your train of thought there, but obviously you can answer your own question. You're just trying to set me up to look good because you think that's what callers are supposed to do. But you can answer the question.
I think I can, but I want to hear what you have to say.
Okay, it's very simple. Don't lose your train of thought. Don't forget. What's the second question? Let me get the second question so you don't forget it, and we'll go back to it.
Okay. I've got a 20-year-old granddaughter that's 9 months away from graduating and going to become a third-grade history teacher.
Yeah.
If I can only afford to buy one of your books, which one of the books would you recommend I buy for her?
Rush, Revere, and the Brave Pilgrims.
Okay.
The first one. Because after that, she's going to want the other 4. And she'll go out.
Well, yeah, I looked at them, but they're great books, but I'm kind of waiting around. Maybe somebody will put them on eBay.
Tell them, well, they're not that expensive. I mean, and they're also, for her, they would be a business expense if she has deduction. Now, anyway, your question about secondhand smoke and marijuana and so forth, it's clearly the way to demonstrate the pure, total hypocrisy of the anti-freedom left. Because here you have, on the one hand, you've got cigarettes, and you have big tobacco, big corporations. That is all you need if you're a leftist to be filled with rage and hate. Then you hear the surveys and the studies that secondhand smoke kills, and that big tobacco lied, and that they're getting rich off of killing their customers. So you hate them. You despise them. But then you get introduced to marijuana as a leftist anti-freedom fighter, and you happen to love it. But it looks like a cigarette, without a filter, by the way, and you love smoking. And when you take a hit off a doobie, you are supposed to hold that baby in, you suck it in there, and you hold it as long as you can. Which, if measured against cigarette smoking, is even worse than the way cigarette smoke is. They've got a filter on there, even though it doesn't matter. And they take their draws and they exhale, and that leads to death on the part of the smoker and anybody nearby ingesting secondhand smoke. But with the marijuana, Toke, you suck it in there, and you hold it, and you hold it, and you hold it, and then you do it again. And you pass a doobie around, and you do it again until even when there's just an eighth of an inch left, you burn your fingers getting the next hit. You do it, and you do it, and you suck it in. And then they tell you about, there are dangerous tars, and there are likely carcinogens in there. And you say, no, there's not. No, there's not. There's not. There's no and there's no corporation behind marijuana. There's nothing evil about it. But then you have this lingering problem out there, secondhand smoke. It kills. The left, they scored big dollars on that. Major lawsuits against big tobacco. They got tobacco banned everywhere. They got all kinds of success stories on a lying proposition that secondhand smoke kills, causes cancer. Well, marijuana smokers, after they blow it out, they run around the room trying to re-inhale it. I mean, they're sucking on a doobie, then they suck on the secondhand smoke, and now they've got a problem because why doesn't that cause cancer? Well, guess what? There's a new survey. And the first survey about secondhand smoke, damn it was all wrong. There's not a thing to worry about with secondhand smoke. Perfectly timed for now what appears to be the uptick in legalization of marijuana. And so none of the things that attach to cigarettes, i.e. tobacco, big corporate, so forth, I can't wait till an R.J. Reynolds or a Philip Morris or somebody buys a series of marijuana farms and starts selling marijuana instead of some local hippie, in a tie-dyed sweatshop in Denver. Wait till the big corporations, because it's going to happen. And then they're going to be flummoxed because they're going to want to smoke their Mary Jane, but they don't want to be patronizing evil big tobacco at the same time. Or if some of these little tie-dyed independent contractors happen to grow to corporate status. And it will, and then when they start uniformly taxing this. I mean, if you're going to tax carbon, how do you not tax Mary Jane? So there's a lot that's in store for them that they don't like. I mean, the things that they have done to successfully stigmatize cigarette smoking are all applicable to smoking marijuana. You've got to ignore holding it in. These are carcinogens and other things in your lungs. Now, I know the marijuana. No, there's not a single carcinogen in marijuana. It's been studied. I know. In fact, I saw George Stephanopoulos say that there isn't any carcinogen at all in marijuana. I'm just making that up, but I mean, he's one of their source authorities, since we're talking about him today. But that'll be up to you to believe. No carcinogens in marijuana. You can smoke that. You can suck that in. You can hold that in your lungs as long as you want. And then you can exhale it, and all that secondhand marijuana smoke, harmless, totally harmless. Have at it. Blow it out on your dog. Blow it out on your cat. It's harmless. It's a genuine conflict that they're going to have to come up with some sort of assistance with. And that's what this secondhand smoke, the new survey, hey, guess what? We were wrong. There isn't anything bad. A secondhand smoke. It's so easy to see where this is coming from. Steve, hang on. Mr. Snerdley, I'll get your address here. We'll send your daughter the books. It's worth it. It's worth it. If your daughter is going to become a history teacher, it's too important. So we'll just hang on. We'll get an address and we'll get them out to you. In the meantime, a brief timeout here. Okay. So I just got an email. I got lots of emails. I just saw them. Do you think Priebus is in trouble? No, folks. My whole point. I don't think Bannon's in trouble, and I don't think Priebus is in trouble. This is all manufactured stuff. Here, the first headline I have is the left's grand plan for Steve Bannon, divide and conquer. The point here is this, just to reiterate, Time magazine cover story on Bannon, the real president in hiding. And they know Trump's ego, or they think they do. This is that they don't know Trump at all. And this is what's fascinating to me. They had every chance in the world to get to know Trump. All they had to do was actually pay attention at his rallies instead of sitting there as a bunch of elitist, condescending people holding everybody there in contempt. If they would have just sat there and listened, none of what Trump's doing today would surprise them. It's the agenda being rolled out. The fact that Trump's voters have not abandoned him, there's no mystery to this. This is exactly what they expected to happen. Everything's on schedule. It's the Republicans on Capitol Hill that may have some explaining to do with all the talk about delaying Obamacare. None of the president threw in on that, too, and the tax cuts don't seem to be happening as quickly as were indicated. That's where fault lines lie. So the media doing the story on Bannon being the real president, what the purpose of that is, they think they can undermine, they think get under Trump's skin. They really think that they can force Trump to fire Bannon out of jealousy. They think Trump is so insecure. And to think like this, that somebody like Trump is insecure, you have to have experience with something. I would think many of the people leveling this charge maybe suffer similar insecurities and are simply projecting. Because the theory is, if you go out and build Bannon up, and you talk about how he's the real brains, and he's the real policy guy, then Trump's supposed to sit there and start steaming that people think he's not in charge, that people think he's not in control, that people think he's not number one. And the objective, okay, walk in, Steve, I'm sorry, everybody thinks you're running a show and I can't have that. You're gone. And then the same thing with Priebus. And here's this Chris Ruddy of Newsmax, who is very close, very tight with Trump, who goes on CNN and basically said that, well, things are not cool. Priebus not doing a good job. Trump not happy. Well, people say, well, Ruddy is very tight with Trump. Ruddy, I can't imagine Ruddy going out and saying something like that without Trump knowing. So then the media says, so obviously Trump sent Ruddy out to say that, which means that Priebus is next to go. And that's what they want you to think and everybody else to buy. But none of this is coming from Trump. Have you noticed it? None of it's coming from Trump. You hear about it in the media, either on the cover of Time or from Chris Ruddy, supposedly, who then walked back a little bit his tweet, because he tweeted again yesterday that he had since met with Priebus. I mean, this is kind of strange, too. Here's Chris Ruddy of Newsmax saying he met with Priebus, the White House chief of staff, and when Priebus explained the policy agenda, that Ruddy was comforted. Oh, okay, that's better. As though Ruddy is a de facto Trump. So Trump, via Ruddy, was worried about Priebus, but now that Ruddy thinks it's okay after having talked to Priebus, I guess Trump's not going to fire. This is all absurd. And this is what you get when the left really has nothing but psychological operations and warfare type things to try to make you think that this White House is so maladjusted and so incompetent, so unqualified, that nobody knows what's going on over there. And they're led by this jealous egomaniac who's as insecure as the day is long. All of this is totally made up, like the fact that all of these rioters and protesters represent the majority of America is totally made up. And I find it, as I say, I think it's just interesting that this is the best they've got. It's the best they've got. And it's a continuation, in fact, of Hillary's number one reason to elect her, and that is Trump's not fit, Trump's unsuited, Trump's mentally deranged. And how did that work out for Hillary? And they think that this is going to separate Trump supporters from Trump. There's a key thing they have forgotten. The media didn't make Trump, and that means they can't destroy Trump. If you let the media make you, if you are who you are, if you're big name, lots of fame, success, because the media says you are, well, they can cancel you out anytime they want, but the media has nothing to do with Trump's success. Literally nothing. There's nothing they can do, but they don't understand that. I don't think there's anybody in media that has a better understanding of Trump supporters, who they are, and why they support Trump, and what it would take for fissures to appear. But the media, and they're getting more deranged. Now Bill Maher and now half the left is out there talking, we really think Trump's insane. We really think Trump's mentally unstable. We really think psychologically Trump may be very, very mentally unbalanced. It really is despicable stuff, but that's all they've got. Quick timeout. We'll be back with more after this. No, I did not say tweezers. The staff here is joking, and I said tweezers when you got 1/8 of your doobie left. I know I would have said roach clip if I would have said anything. And other people are writing, you seem to know an awful lot about smoking marijuana. Look, I know a bunch of, in my life, people have done that. I've witnessed a bunch of this stuff, folks. I'm not going to sit here and deny that. Anyway, another brief timeout with continuation here on the other side.
Welcome.
Having more fun than a human being should be allowed to have. El Rushbo behind the golden EIB microphone talent. In fact, much more than I'll ever need. On loan from God. 800-282-2882. We're not going to join the Trump-Trudeau press conference at the outset. I know I said that we were going to join the Trump press conference, but I didn't know when I first announced this that it was a joint presser with the Prime Minister of Canada, Trudeau. So when they finished the joint, you're great, no, you're great, no, you're better, we love you, now we love you too, if you'd stop people from coming here for health care, I'd love you even more. When that section of the press conference ends and they go to questions from the reporters, which will be about vote fraud and voter fraud, do you have any evidence of voter fraud and all, that's when we'll jip this. Now, there's immigration news out there before I get back to the audio sound bites. I've got one more about me. Chris Christie is seeking new power and influence, and his advice here, the way to do it is to become the next me. So we'll have that soundbite coming up. But I want to get some of this immigration news because I firmly believe that immigration remains ballgame in terms of the future of the United States remaining the nation it was founded to be. Immigration is the primary reason Donald Trump was elected. It remains a focal point for people that support and voted for Trump. And that executive order, Trump supporters are livid about this in every which way. The media is not changing any minds among Trump supporters on that executive order. They're angry at the judiciary, as they should be. And these ICE raids that are happening, people are applauding these. You know, the drive-bys think, this is outrageous, this is poor minorities. And wait a minute, this is a matter of the law. We're just enforcing law and order, which Trump also said he was going to do. But let me go through some of this immigration stuff, because the news here today is just outrageous. First, from the Wall Street Journal, influential Mexicans are pushing an aggressive and perhaps risky strategy to fight a likely increase in deportations of their undocumented compatriots in the U.S., and that is to jam U.S. immigration courts in hopes of causing the already overburdened system to break down. This is Mexico. Mexico does not want the people that left Mexico to come here illegally. They don't want them back. What does that tell you? That a nation does that mean these people are not all that productive in the eyes of Mexico? Why don't they want them back? And they're planning on an ad campaign to tell illegals here in America how to go out and get a free of charge immigration lawyer and to just go to court and clog up the system. Why doesn't the Mexican government and its most influential citizens want these people back? It's their people. Aren't we told that Mexican illegal aliens are the best and brightest? Aren't we told that that's the future of America by the Democrat Party and the media? Aren't we told that they're the hardest working, that they're going to be a boon to any economy? Why doesn't Mexico want them back? Now, this proposal calls for ad campaigns advising immigrants in the U.S. to take their cases to court and fight deportation if they're detained. The backlog in the immigration system is tremendous already, said the Foreign Minister Jorge Castañeda. The idea is to double or triple the backlog in court until Trump says we can't handle it anymore and calls the idea stupid. Here again, on display vividly, people that do not understand Donald Trump. They really think that they can force Trump to give up this campaign issue by flooding the courts? They think they can stop Trump with a judge issuing a stay on his executive order? Do you realize how fit to be tied the left is? They think when that judge in Seattle stayed Trump's executive order, they think that means that all immigration law is suspended. That's how stupid they are. So now the ICE raids, which have been planned from back in the Obama administration days, that's how long ago these were scheduled. These are Obama immigration raids, essentially, and it's not I'm not making a political comment, it's just fact. These people on the left who think that judge in Washington can tell the president what for. They think that judge in Washington can tell the president to shut up and go away, and they think the president has to listen to what that judge says. They can't believe that deportations are going on. They can't believe that ICE is running around rounding up the illegals and sending them back. They can't believe it. They're fit to be tied. The Mexicans can't believe it either. So now they're trying to order with ad campaigns. You know, it's just like there have been ad campaigns, how to get free health care. That is, find the nearest emergency room, how to get this, how to get food stamps. The Mexican government has had ad campaigns for all their illegals living here on how to exploit the U.S. welfare system. And now there's an ad campaign on how to exploit the court system by going out and getting a lawyer. USA Today has a story, what to do if immigration officers come knocking at your door. So what this is, USA Today is actually running an ad, not a campaign ad, running an ad for the ACLU under the guise of a news story. Begins this way. Roundups of undocumented immigrants across the country have sent immigrant rights advocates to social media, blasting out information in multiple languages on how those caught up in such raids should respond. Can I translate this for you? Roundups of illegal immigrants across the country have sent illegal immigrant rights advocates to social media, blasting out information in multiple languages on how those behaving illegally should continue to try to break the law. So where were these people when Obama was doing the deporting? Because, you know, Obama deported 7,500. These raids are not new. They happened I remember them. I remembered commenting on a couple of them when they happened. I said, why isn't the left enraged by this? And it's because Obama was doing it, so it was okay. If immigration and customs enforcement agents this is USA Today, this is from their story. If ICE agents show up at your door, the ACLU advises you to not open it unless the agents can show a warrant signed by a judge. Ask to see it through a window or slipped under the door. Residents can ask through the door why the agents are there and request an interpreter if they need one. If there is no warrant, ask the agents to leave the information outside. Now, bear in mind that the ACLU and the rest of the Amnesty Open Borders lobby say that we cannot enforce our immigration laws because it'll make illegal aliens afraid of law enforcement. And they won't report crimes. Have you heard that argument? How specious is that? The ACLU and your average leftist in the Open Borders lobby say that we should not and we cannot enforce immigration law because that would be to enforce it on illegal immigrants. And that would make the illegal immigrants afraid of law enforcement all the time. And then they won't report crimes because they're afraid of the cops. And we can't afford to deport them. We can't afford to track them down because that just makes them afraid of the cops, and we don't want them. I'm sorry, you people in media do a great job of that all on your own, making people afraid of the cops. So these raids are happening, planned during the Obama administration. Mexico running ads encouraging illegals here to go get immigration lawyers and clog the courts. Thousands poised to enter deportation process after mass ICE arrest. Obama conducted 3 major immigration raids. The mainstream media ignored them, and nobody protested. This is a story from June 21st of 2011. I wanted to trick you. June 21st, 2011, thousands poised to enter deportation process after mass ICE arrest. The Obama administration announced Tuesday. This is 6 years ago, folks. Well, 5.5 years. The Obama administration announced Tuesday that federal agents swept up 2,400 illegal immigrants in a nationwide raid last month, starting what will likely be a months-long process of figuring out what to do with them. The sweep, the product of a 7-day operation called Cross-Check, was described as the largest of its kind. ICE, in coordination with other federal agencies and local officials, tracked down illegal immigrant criminals in all 50 states that are now housing them in ICE jails across the country. Now, bear in mind, this was reported factually. There's nothing to see here. This Obama being rounded up 2,500 illegals. They're in jail in preparation of being deported. Contrast that with these raids this past weekend and how they've been reported. With everything I just told you, advice from the ACLU and USA Today on what to do if the agent shows up at your house, how to get a lawyer to clog the court system to break it down and cause it to fail. It's profound, the difference. AP decided to do a fact check. Are recent immigration raids the result of Trump policy? And then they say, well, you know, Obama did some of this and Trump's doing some of this, and they conclude the truth lies somewhere in between. You know where most of the fake news in America is today? I've concluded there is never so much fake news as there is in a mainstream media fact check. I think these fact checks actually contain more fake news than the original reporting that they claim to be fact-checking. Because this is clear obfuscation. There's truth lies somewhere in between. No, it doesn't. These recent immigration raids are the result of Obama policy, which is the United States. This is simply the law being enforced, which was the only point Stephen Miller was making to Stephanopoulos yesterday. This is simply the law being enforced. That's all it is. What people are upset about, I'm telling you again, we have enough leftist lame brains who believe that judge in Seattle shut down all deportations. They think that's what that stay means. They think that judge staying Trump's executive order means all immigration is permitted. That's what they think. Many of them do. And they're perfectly fine with a federal judge in Seattle being able to tell a president what can and can't do when it comes to immigration policy. And so the reason they're really mad is because they misunderstand the executive order and the stay, and they think, well, he's violating the law again. He doesn't respect, he can't be doing this. The judge said he can't do this. The judge said there's nothing that can happen until it's decided. Trump's deporting people. It's amazing, folks, the ignorance. Well, it's not amazing with the media the way they are. It stands to reason. What is this? Mexicans march against Trump. Bad hombres for the whole world. Mexicans waved flags that read Fuera Peña or Peña out. Accusations of government corruption, coupled with the anger over his handling of the disappearance of 43 Mexican students in 2014, have sunk his approval ratings. Why is Mexico so threatened now? Isn't that rather obvious, too? Because the United States is going to make illegal aliens go through the process to become legal in order to stay here, instead of letting an entire country come in here and bleed us. And that's what they're upset about. And do not doubt me. The left believes the world should be able to come in and bleed America because the world suffers because of America. They really and actually believe that. Audio soundbite number 3. This is Sabeel Marcellus. This happened on WOR-TV's New Jersey Now on Sunday. And the guests are Sabeel Marcellus and a Democrat strategist named Adam Silverstein and a former New Jersey Republican State Chair, Virginia Littell. And they're talking about the future of Republican Governor Chris Christie after his term as governor ends. And they had this little back and forth.
Look at Trump. I mean, that's the best role model if you want to use TV to become president.
I do believe his next move is television. He's very good in front of a camera. Power is what he wants, and the best place he's going to have it is being able to influence policy and influence elected officials.
It's Rush Limbaugh. It's Rush.
It's Fox News.
Yeah.
It's becoming a commentator on one of the cable news stations.
Right. So if Christie wants to have power and influence after he leaves the governor's throne in New Jersey, he needs to become the next Rush Limbaugh. How many is this, Mr. Snerdley? How many? This is at least 10. Started with Governor Cuomo was going to be next Rush Limbaugh, then Jim Hightower and Gary Hart Pence, and then all of Air America was supposed to become the next Rush Limbaugh. There's only one anyway, and there will always only be one. Another obscene profit break is upon us here, my friends, but we'll be back. You have to hear, we got some calls coming up, you have to hear more from Sally Boynton Brown. This is the woman running for chairman of the Democrat National Committee who said that if she gets the job, she's going to make sure that white people are no longer heard at the Democrat National Committee. She's back. Can't wait. Don't go away. Okay, Trudeau is speaking. Trump looks either irritated or bored. Trudeau's saying one thing Trump and I have in common. One goal we have in common. I hope he doesn't say is to grow up. You know what I hope, folks? Because I just read a story here in the New York Post that the owner of the New England Patriots, Robert Kraft, remains very upset that somebody stole Tom Brady's jersey. And he said, it's very sad to me that someone would do something like this, like you steal Brady's jersey. It's like taking a great Chagall or Picasso or something. Have you associated football jersey with a Chagall or a Picasso? First, do you know who Chagall is? I know you know who Picasso is. You know who Chagall is? Great Israeli artist, Marc Chagall. Mr. Kraft said you can never display it because you stole it. And somehow I feel there'll be some news that'll clear this up in the not-too-distant future. I hope it'll be cleared up soon. You know what I hope? I really hope somehow Vladimir Putin has it. Would that not be a hoot? Putin could give back the Brady jersey and the 33,000 Hillary emails. Here's Bob in Charlotte, North Carolina. Bob, I'm glad you called. Great to have you with us. How are you doing, sir?
Well, I'm doing wonderful, and double dittos to you, Rush.
Thank you, sir.
I'm calling for one facet of this immigration issue, and that being the sanctuary city.
Yeah.
I'm afraid most of us don't understand why these liberal mayors are so adamant about keeping status quo with this situation. Is there like a pipeline of money from Washington that makes them think this way? It's not clear to me.
Well, there has been. Yeah, it's indirect, but yeah, there's aid. Cities get some federal. That's why Trump has made a big point out of cutting off funding to the cities. But I'm going to tell you, there's another aspect to this. Money is big. I mean, whenever there's money involved, follow the trail, and you'll usually find an answer or the answer to most questions. But there's something else to this. And it's not just these mayors. It's you go to every one of these cities that's a sanctuary city, and many of the residents, but primarily the political leadership of these cities, support it. And it's for one reason. They believe, Bob, honest to God now, this is hard to believe. It's hard to get your arms around. They believe that the United States is an oppressor nation by seeking to deport these illegals, and therefore they're automatically victims of an evil imperialistic United States and need to be protected. So these are people who think the United States is oppressive and unkind and mean. Okay, Sally Boynton Brown, running for chairmanship of Democrat National Committee. When I hear stuff like this is why I tell everybody, don't be afraid. Don't let these protests and riots get to you. I mean, they literally are trying to take the system down. There's no question they're trying to do that. But don't let them get you. Don't let them convince you that what you voted for was right. Don't let them convince you that if you could do it again, you would do it differently. Don't let them convince you that a majority of Americans are unhappy with the way things are going. Don't let them convince you of anything. In fact, if you can, laugh at them. Some of them are very violent and dangerous, I understand. But when you listen to things like this is why you really shouldn't be afraid. You should be, in fact, be comforted. This is a woman seeking the chairmanship of the Democrat National Committee. This was Saturday afternoon in Baltimore at the Candidates Forum for Democrat National Committee. We have Sally Boynton Brown, who, in her first go at this, said she assured everybody, she promised everybody, the DNC, that she would make sure that white people had no more to say. That white people were through talking. That we weren't going to be listening to white people at the DNC anymore. The fact that she's back, the fact that she was not sent packing, the fact that she's still a candidate is great news for us and quite telling. And here's more of what she said.
This energy that has sprung up in our country, while it may be because we have powerful fear that we need to attack and push back on, is a reminder that we are a democracy and we have the ability to do that. And we don't need to push it down and construct it into anything. We need to let it continue to be organic and flow freely without putting restrictions and rules on it. We need to go ask them. We need to have the conversation with the millions of people marching. What do you want from the party? At the end of the day, what it's going to be is information that they want to know when the marches are.
All right. So this woman's full of it. But this is our godsend. This is a woman who apparently has a pretty good shot at getting the job. Now, you don't think that's true? Are you kidding? This woman is mainstream now. That's the whole point. You hear Jim Webb in a minute. You'll hear exactly what he's talking about. But look at what she said here. We don't need to push it down. We need to let it continue to be organic and flow freely without putting restrictions. It isn't organic. That is the point. You know what they're trying to do, folks? They are trying to say that this is the Tea Party. That this is their version. They are tantamount admitting that Occupy Wall Street was fake. Because Occupy Wall Street was supposedly the reaction to the Tea Party. But now, no. This is the Democrat Tea Party. Really? This is bought and paid for. That's the thing about this. And you know where a lot of this is coming from? Can I tell you? Barack Obama. Barack Obama is encouraging this. Barack Obama is instructing this. He's praising this. Some of the money coming from the Hillary Clinton campaign, a lot of it coming from George Soros and other Democrat donors. If there weren't any money behind this, I dare say over half of this wouldn't even be happening. These people wouldn't be out there unless they're being paid. That's what nobody will report. That's what nobody will say. They want you to think that this is all organic, legitimate anger at Donald Trump. This is a lot of people being paid to go out and demonstrate it. And this woman thinks this is the future of the Democrat Party, that these people, what do they want from us at the DNC? Information. They want to know when the marches are. Here's the next thing she said.
I am, by nature, an optimistic, positive person who fights for what I believe in. I have had to do some deep soul searching in the last 2 months since Trump won to say, okay, that's still who I am by nature. And we also have this narcissist at the head of our country that we're going to have to fight against. What I know is that people who fight against do that really well. They know what they're fighting against, and they're very vocal about it. We've seen that in the last year. I think we've seen that in the last 2 months. And so what I've decided is we need to give them the information that they need to keep fighting against and keep empowering them to do that.
There she said it again. So the purpose of the Democrat National Committee is to give the marchers the information they need to keep marching, to give the rioters the information they need to keep rioting, to give the protesters the information they need to keep protesting. She's admitting that's all they've got is civil disobedience. The only thing they've got is ruckus raising, intimidation, threats, property destruction. That's it. And she's running for chairman, Democrat National Committee, on the basis that she's best qualified. Now, who's next? This would be grab number 6, Raymond Buckley, who is also running. He was also at the same forum in Baltimore on Saturday, and he got a question from the Urban Radio Network correspondent, April Ryan. She said, Ray Buckley, when will the DNC speak about what we are for, not just what we are against, which is a dig at this Sally Boynton Brown babe?
My answer might cost me this race. I'm sorry. While many of you know that I'm openly gay, but what many of you don't know is where I really came from, and that's the lowest of the white working class. And let me tell you, when we're running $100 million worth of commercials, telling the voters that, oh, our opponent is offensive, when you're worrying about your damn paycheck, you're worrying about your job, if your kids are ever going to go to school, they don't really give a crap about if the president is an insult dog. We did not offer a positive message to anyone that I'm related to. We did not offer a message to the people in Indiana or Ohio or Pennsylvania or Kentucky. What we did is we said, how offensive. Grow up.
Yeah, well, he's right, but he's so in the minority on the Democrat Party. Did you hear what he said? Well, this answer might cost me the race, meaning the job. I may not get the chairmanship because of what I'm going to tell you. But he's grow up, stop being offended, stop marching, stop making fools of yourself, stop running around, this offends me, this scares me, this frightens me. Grow up. He's basically saying, I'm from the white working class and my own party punted me. And he's exactly right. Let's go to Jim Webb. He ran for the Democratic nomination, and he got out after 2 or 3 debates because he realized he was with a bunch of communists and he didn't feel at home. Now, he was on Meet the Press on Sunday and talking about all of this, and here's the first bite of what he said.
The Democrats, first of all, they're looking at 2018. And they don't have a message. There is a campaign going on the Hill, in the media, in the academia, to personally discredit not only Donald Trump, but the people who are around him. And, you know, the end result of this really is trying, and to slow down the process, is slow it down so that by 18, when the Democrats are very vulnerable, particularly in the Senate, there will not be a record of accomplishment that they can run against.
Because they don't, Mr. Webb, they don't have anything. You just heard it. The people running for the DNC do not have an agenda other than to stoke the marches, to stoke the protests. That's all they've got, because all they are is angry, because all they are is entitled, because all they are is people who think that power is their birthright. All they are people who feel it is beneath them to compete, and they don't know what to do. They have been rejected big time, and they don't know how to handle it. Record of achievement? They've just lost 1,200 seats? What record of achievement? How could they build a record of achievement where they are now anyway? How could that happen? For those of you doubting me, how Obama is scheming to sabotage Trump's presidency, it's by Paul Sperry in the New York Post. Have the details. This is Carell in Halifax, Nova Scotia. I want to squeeze this in before we have to go. How you doing, Carell? Great to have you on the program.
Holy mackerel, I made it. Oh, yes. Hello, sir.
Yes.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
And it's Kirill, by the way, just to let you know. I wanted to talk about immigration today because I was reading over the weekend about a lady from Arizona named Guadalupe Garcia de Rayos, who, in case your listeners might not know, she was here for 22 years, but she had a felony conviction in 2009 because she faked a Social Security number in order to get a job up here. And everybody's protesting down there. They've brought out the children and all that sort of stuff. And I just kind of wanted to ask, like, when is there ever going to be this idea that these people have, these people's actions have consequences, and not only just for them, but for their children, right? This conviction came when she had young children, like 9 or 10 years old.
We actually talked about Guadalupe on the program in a couple of morning updates, and you're right. Isn't it telling that the enforcement of immigration, especially when these people screw up, I mean, she was sailing along under the radar just fine, and then and there's another case in Texas that's somewhat similar, where one in Texas moved and in trying to re-register to vote, blew it. And they found her, and that went to court. A jury convicted her, and everybody's up in arms about it. This is a law for which breaking has had no consequences for the longest time. Now, all of a sudden, there are. And it's just a law enforcement issue. Shouldn't be anybody surprised. Trump said this exactly what he was going to do, if anybody would have listened. Carol, I'm glad you got through. I really appreciate it. We'll have more on Guadalupe tomorrow because we'll review this. We did talk a little bit about it last week, but I'm out of time now. I'm sorry. That's it, my friends. We are out of precious broadcast moments for today, but there's always tomorrow. And as always, I have appreciated the chance to be here with you. I'm glad you're here every day and look forward to seeing you next time. 21 hours